Alright lads, welcome back to Kickback Garage. As you can see, I have already fit the bearings in there, but I'm going to go through how I did that. Today was super duper hectic. Now, to tell you the truth, my wife was off work today, and the last thing she said, I was lying still in bed when she went to work, but the last thing she said before she went off to work was, can you please bring in the Christmas tree and give the place a bit of a hoover and a wash? Sure, of course I can. And fell back to sleep again, and the doorbell ringed, as it does. The doorbell ringed, and it was the courier with both the pots for the BSA and the steering bearings and the chrome ring from Rimini Lambretta. Lightning fast, by the way. They send stuff really quick. That's my experience, at least. They arrived at the door, and well, yeah, to cut a short story very short, I'm in the doghouse. She wasn't very pleased when she came home an hour late and I hadn't done anything in the house because I've been busy out here. Anyway, that's life. Sometimes you have to use a bit more attention on the old lover. So the reason why I fit this is because I couldn't find, I normally use a 16mm threaded bar, and I borrowed some spacers from work and I couldn't find one whatsoever, so I put a bit of a call out on the old Facebook, and a neighbour of mine who messes around with cars in his free time, he come running down, and it just didn't seem natural, me setting the camera up and, and going through stuff like that when he was here. It's all a little bit embarrassing yet at the moment. So he helped me out, and we got all this fit really easy. What I thought I'd do is just run you through how we fit it, and so that if you're going to do it, then gives you some tips and tricks. The first thing I did while I was waiting for him to come down with his 16mm threaded bar was I put the bearing races, both the little one in the top that goes in the crown ring itself, and the lower bearing race, I threw those in the freezer. I'm not sure if it helps or anything, but yeah, it certainly worked this time. And the first job I did was fit the bearing race, the lower bearing race. You can see it here. Oh, it's heavy, these when they're not stripped. So I fit the lower bearing race here, and the way that I did that, it was actually a neat little trick that they talk about in stickies, and it's simply the old lower bearing race from the frame that fits over the fork, and as you can see there, if it's just flush at the top of the bottom race, which is absolutely bloody perfect. So I greased it up, pushed it down as far as I could, and just give it a couple of whacks with the old hammer until it's sat flush. And that way you don't make any damage on the lower bearing race. Another thing that I got informed was when I took off the bearing race, I just simply used a very sharp chisel to get in the bottom edge of that, just to lift it up a little bit. But I've been informed now that it's not that easy to see. You can see it there. Can you see that little hole there? Maybe, baby, if I bring you right close up. Yeah. So what they are, and it's quite a cool idea, because none of the motorbikes and that sort of thing that I normally mess around on has those. It's basically a hole so that you can use a small tapered punch and knock up the bearing from the bottom there. So you've got a bigger chance of keeping this edge here damage free. So that was cool. So that was dead easy. That was the first thing I did. Right, we're back on wobbly cam here. One thing I forgot to mention was that when you fit in the bottom race on your fork, which is over there now, Series 1s and Series 2s, they don't have the plate or the protective dust cover that fits underneath the bearing race. They don't have that. So if you've got a Series 3, remember to put that on before you put your bottom race on, which is always a good idea. So what I did here is, according to stickers, you can drift these bearing races and chrome rings and all that sort of stuff. You can drift those in if you've got a suitable drift. Now, I'm not too keen on that idea. So what I have done in the past and what I did today was this device here you can see on the floor. This is a bicycle bearing tool. And I don't use the tool itself because that's too short. But it's 60mm, so that means that I can use these spacers. Now, the way that I do it is I placed the chrome ring, the dust cover, onto the lower race here and just entered it slightly after I'd put some grease in there. And obviously, when I took out the bearings, I had the little flappy wheel to get rid of some. There's a lot of corrosion on the inside there from because it's been sat around probably for 10 or 15 years before we restored it 10 years ago again. So what I did was use your flappy wheel on the Dremel and just cleaned up the inside, both here and under the chrome ring here. And it's always smart to press in one side at a time, because then you've got a much bigger chance of getting it in square, so that it doesn't go to one side. So I fit this, and then I put the threaded bar through, and then I use this spacer here, which coincidentally fit in the frame, and that keeps it parallel to the bottom, and then just wound it up, and to my surprise it wound up really easy. Now I used one of these kind of spacers in the bottom, and that sits just flush on the cup there, so that meant that you don't damage the bearing face on that either. And when that was pulled into place, seriously, I used like 2 minutes. It went really quick. It's good quality items there from Castle Lambretta. Thank you very much to the boys down there. And then I did the same with the chrome ring. I used this spacer here, and that slots, incidentally, slots into the top of the chrome ring. Now obviously I've got the bearing race as well there, but took that straight out the freezer, give it a bit of a grease, fit this inside, so that's that flush with the chrome ring and the race at the bottom, and I just wound that in as well. It went straight in, no problems. And then I did the same with this one and fit the upper bearing race there, and it went together really easy. I think I used like 15 minutes on it flat, so I'm a bit chuffed with that. Now MB Developments, they have made a special tool which is basically the same as what I've showed you now, but then obviously the spaces and the cups, they coincide with the bearing races, and it's a bit of bar with these spacers so you can wind it down, and that'll do exactly the same job, I reckon. So, but the problem is that I don't think, I did look on their site and they didn't have them in, and this is a job, as you know, this is the first time I've done this for about, well, I'm lying now, I did it on that one obviously, but okay, I've done it twice in 2 years, but normally it's a job I do like once every 10 years or something, so it's not really that common. So probably if you've got a scooter club or something like that, it's one of those tools you could have between you. And at the end, I fit the grub screw with a little bit of Loctite. and it all went together really, really well. I'm chuffed to bits with that. So that's that job done. And as you see, I've given it a bit of a wash and a bit of a polish here, and I've taken out, oh, let's have a look, taken out the toolbox there so I can fit the cables when they come. So that was that job. It was actually a lot easier than I thought it would be. So and that makes a change, doesn't it? In hindsight, when I was trying to drift out these at work, we have what's it called? It's like it's a pipe, but it's splayed in the bottom, and that would probably do a lot better job at gripping the outside edge of that lower race that I'd had a lot of trouble trying to get out with. But yeah, you live and learn, don't you? And I've heard lots of horror stories on reproduction bearing cups and stuff like that being oversized, undersized, having all sorts of problems trying to fit them. But these items here, they're the Casa Lambretta ones. Like I said, I bought from Rimini Lambretta Centre, and they fit absolutely no problem. So I didn't have any stress with that whatsoever. And now that all this video is coming out after Christmas, I can wish you all a Happy New Year again. Okay lads, ride safe. Did I remember to mention that if you buy, I think it's for more than €100 or something from Rimini Lambretta Centre, that you always get a free t-shirt. Ooh, good. Now I'm not endorsed by him, but it slightly beats a sticker, I reckon. What do you think?